Hello, everyone. Today, I'll be presenting to you outlining the challenges of COVID-19 pandemic on Africa's maritime industry, the case of marine and seafaring professionals. This presentation has been prepared by Dr. Anthony Sackey and Engineer RAPHAEL OFOSU, and is being presented to you by RAPHAEL. I'll be mainly touching upon the points of the failure to accord seafarers as key workers amidst the COVID-19 pandemic, particularly before the 1st December 2020 resolution. I also look at the health impact of COVID-19 infections and other related illnesses for seafaring and marine professionals within the West Coast or Africa's West Coast. And also looking at the policies and regulations relating to crew change, crisis, and overstay contracts. Our objective is to find a resolution and bring an awareness and call to book the regulations that can be implemented or protocols that can be implemented in the future of a possible pandemic of health crisis. We took some data and did some studies looking at qualitative data as well as quantitative data. For the quantitative data, we had 71 samples, and the qualitative data, we had 15 samples. We got qualitative data from field observations and operations, and also during embarkation and shore operations. We were able to gather data through WhatsApp platforms, Facebook platforms, and also through emails and face-to-face interviews. We can see, looking at the stage 1, which is the period between the periods of January to March 2020. And later on in the periods of April and up until May 2021. And also from February till May 2021. We're able to speak to various rankings and officers and professionals within the seafaring and the marine industry, such as engine officers, ship officers, engineers, and offshore project crew. The total respondents amounted to 141 years of experience amongst all respondents, with an average of 14 years experience. We also look at the awareness of positive positive COVID-19 cases. And we can see here from the respondents that there's a higher value of lack of awareness from the respondents, as opposed to few respondents who were aware of the COVID-19 virus and the related protocols. We look at the proximity to all locations, embarkation, quarantine, mainly implemented for offshore Ghana and Angola, and also few cases discovered on destination vessel or on arrival at the vessel location, and also the stigma attached to being tested positive. This was prevalent in the first 6 months of the pandemic declaration. We'll be looking at the protocols case study for mainly vessel crew management in places like Angola and in Ghana. Looking at Ghana, there is a mandatory 10 to 14 days compulsory embarkation quarantine. This included locals as well as expatriates. Although locals are required to self-isolate at home for 8 days, called the quarantine campaign. However, despite the embarkation quarantine, a test is taken 3 days prior to embarkation. With all these protocols, we had some 50 members testing positive on board the FPSO KNK. Also in Angola, similarly, there is a 10 to 14 day compulsory isolation or quarantine for locals as well as expatriates. And a testing, COVID-19 testing done 3 days prior to embarkation on board the vessel location, with these protocols in place, there were still over 50 crew members who tested positive on board the FPSO in Goma and showed signs and symptoms, which was recorded by the ship medic. Subsequently, there were new protocols put in place, which required that after 7 days of embarking, there is a COVID-19 test required on the vessel. Currently, also, field operators and company are working hand in hand with the health government sectors to carry out vaccinations operations on board the vessel location and at offshore locations. We also observed situations such as poor mental health, cancellation of contracts, overstaying contracts, and underpaid or reduced wages. These are all influences or impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. As seafaring and marine professionals have to overstay their usual rotation periods. This is during quarantine, the quarantine period, the 14-day mandatory quarantine period, as well as some extended days overstaying contracts on board the vessel. We can see here the effects of these observed problems. We also have put in place the mitigations that we propose could be used. The case study is to mainly recommend transparency within the industry and also to call upon or for the UN and IMO to consider developing an international novel emergency contingency or regulation that could be put in place and automatically come to life, seeking to normalize operations in case of a global emergency. Thank you for listening.